Step on up. Hey, good to see you again.
Yeah, I'm a talkative one. Been talking to this boy the whole con.
And yet you still have questions to ask.
I always have questions asked.
That's perfect. That's what it should be. We should be all inquisitive at all moments.
I feel as if this is a little bit more exclusive. Cool people only, right?
It is. It's almost like my hotel room.
Which we're all invited to later, right?
Yeah, but mine is bigger than this room. So.
Don't sleep on my bed and don't take my shoes.
Okay, don't be pushing it, buddy. I'm only one drink in. Relax.
Yeah.
I ain't doing that yet.
So I do have a question though. Are there any fun on this cast of specifically like all the Clerks movies that you've been on? Have there been any fun little bloopers or any really crazy shit that ended up going down that you guys really didn't expect to happen?
I wouldn't say there's fun bloopers and stuff. Like the donkey came in and out perfectly fine. Nothing went crazy there. No one decided to steal it and take it to their hotel room, which the thought went across people's minds. Muse is actually a bit of a prankster on set from time to time, and there was a time where, for especially Clerks 2, where we had taken over an old Burger King in Buena Vista, California, just in Orange County, just 2 blocks away from Knott's Berry Farms Park. And so there was a Days Inn next to us. And now, normally when you're on a set of a movie and you're in a location that, let's say you're only using a house, you bring a whole bunch of trailers for the talent to sit in while they wait for setups and stuff. This time we decided to just take over this entire Days Inn. And it's a motel, meaning the doors open out to the open street, or your terrace, whatever it is. Not an interior lobby. So we had rooms all next to each other that faced the actual movies. When you see the opening scene where the 2 guys come up trying to buy weed from Jay and Bob, you'll see the motel behind Ethan Suplee and his other friend buying weed. You'll see the motel that we're in. So Jay's in this room. We did the second floor. He did the one end room that had a big corner. He always goes to like a local Target or Walmart and gets a giant screen TV because the 24-inch in the hotel is not good for him. And he gets a gaming system, a huge stereo system. So he set up the movie Alexander. If anybody has seen the movie Alexander with Rosario Dawson, there's a scene where she and Alexander get it on, like really get it on. So he had paused the movie during that scene. He's like, Rosario! She sees her walking out. I want to show you something. Can you help me with something on the lines? And she walks in. She's like, what's up, Jane? His door is always open to his room. And he's like, can you help me with this? And then he hit play, and it's her going like completely naked, going completely writhing all over. I forget the actor's name, the Irish guy. And she's like, Jay, you're awful. So that's things like that. We would goof on each other. We had one of the crew, we all put together $200 to eat this gigantic, we specially ordered a gigantic bear claw, like literally the size of a pizza, but giant. And he had to eat it in one sitting, and he would get the $200. He was one of the key grips or something. And he did, he ate it. I think that was the moment he got diabetes, but he did finish it.
Is this one of those jokes where I was like, I'm gonna eat this till I get diabetes? It's like, no, you won't.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck, I feel sick.
Yeah, he definitely was shooting insulin by the end of that shoot.
That's fun, thank you.
There you go. Yes, sir.
Hello.
How you doing?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Doing all right.
Great. So I asked you earlier about a Clerks 3 movie, and you told me something that I guess not everyone I might have heard. So if you can say that again, why maybe Clerks 3 is not being made, but you're kind of looking into Jay and Silent Bob too?
Sure. So Kevin has talked about this on his podcast, and if anybody has ever seen An Evening with or Jay and Bob Get Old at the live events that he travels the country with Jay, or Hollywood Babylon, he gets it all the time. We were all ready to go for Clerks 3. The script had been written now going on 2.5 years. He had done scouting locations. We were all handed scripts, and then we were like, yeah, this is a great script. We want to do it. And then it got into the negotiations with the production company. Now, he was using a production company that we, meaning Jeff and myself and Jay and everyone, hadn't been a part of. Kevin had used them for like Tusk and other films, the other Canadian trilogy, so to speak. And they came in with an offer for the talent that was really what we would consider insulting. And Jeff didn't at all like it at all. Kind of got really upset at it, and then negotiations went sour after that. And so from that point, Kevin was just like, look, if this ain't going to happen because of something like this, and they counter-offered and all of this type of stuff, and it just came to a point where the producers whose money was ready to go with this film said, look, either we're going to do this Clerks 3 or we have money to throw at another film. And so they went with another film. So as of right now, Jeff doesn't want to do it. We can't do it. It's not like Spider-Man where you can just put the mask on anyone, and next thing you know, we have a new Spider-Man. You know what I mean? It's like, it's a new Randall. It doesn't work. I mean, I tried to suggest Sarah Silverman to him to take his place as a really cool kind of weirdness of it. And he was just like, it's not the same. It's like a band. You know, once the drummer leaves, it's like, do we really want to, do we have the same sound again? You know, next thing you know, it's like Van Hagar and it's not the same. And so he's going to then steer a lot of the jokes from that script into a Jay and Silent Bob reboot movie, which I've been told to get ready to start shooting in October. So look for a release date probably about this time next year. So if I'm back next year, probably promoting that.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
So, Brian, we had a panel a couple.
Oh, someone else is here. How you doing?
Hi. We had a panel a couple weeks ago in Raleigh, and we
Great show. Anybody go up to the Raleigh show at all?
Everybody, great.
Great crowd up there.
We didn't start the panel by saying, okay, if you have sensitive ears, whatever. And I mean, obviously, I knew what I was getting myself into. But somehow this panel steered into talks of big black dildos.
Oh, why would you bring that story up?
Well,
already?
because, like you said, this is a very intimate moment, and I feel like this is the right time to talk about big black dildos.
What speaks intimacy but a 2-foot black dildo?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So anyway, what she's leading to is if there's anybody who doesn't want their children to hear this story, you may want to distract them with your iPhone and some headphones or something at this moment, just so you know. So anyway, here we go. You've been forewarned. I don't want to hear complaints on Twitter or someone go into management going, I was highly offended. I'm like, what screen or what panel did you go to? Brian O'Halloran. Well, come on. Have you seen his movies? It's nothing but filth. So the question from a fan of that last Q&A in Raleigh was, what's the weirdest fan experience you've ever had? So, many years ago, Kevin used to have his own film festival in Red Bank, New Jersey.
Hold on, before y'all come in, I'm so sorry. Adult content,
Yeah, we're about to talk about a very adult content story. It's up to you. If you don't mind answering a whole lot of questions on the ride home. All right.
Here we go.
All right. You all witnesses that the testimony was, Your Honor, he walked in with his 3-year-old and said, I'm cool with it. I'm not paying for the therapy. That's on you. All right, well, I'll catch you up to speed. So we were about to tell a story because a fan had asked, what's my weirdest experience with a fan? And so many years ago, Kevin used to throw his own film festival in the town of Red Bank. If anybody's visited Red Bank, where his store, the Secret Stash, Jay and Silent Bob's Secret Stash is, there's a independent film theater that shows art house films and stuff. It has like 2 or 3 screens, I think 2, actually. And he would show his movies that he's made, other friends have made, stuff like that. So we'd show movies like Vulgar, we'd show, which written and directed by Brian Johnson from Comic Book Man, A Better Place, and a whole bunch of other small films, as well as obviously Clerks, Mallrats, Chasing Amy, stuff like that. So, and then after those, we'd have a Q&A and then signings afterwards. You know, we would just sign things for people. Hey, sign my DVD, or sign my VHS at the time. That's another explanation you'll have to explain to your kids. VHSs were, at one time, we had to go get our movies. So they would just say, hey, sign this. So this one guy's like, hey, man, I love your movies, stuff like that. I have something odd for you to sign. I'm like, sure, what is it? And he pulls out of this bag this gigantic 2-foot black dildo. And I was just like, what? Hey, man, sign this. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I literally like took the Sharpie. I didn't even touch it. Like, he held it like this. And I literally was like this. I'm like, so he took it away. And then we took a photo. He's like, can we take a photo? I'm like, really? And this is before Photoshop was really the thing to do things. So I was just like, you hold it, and I'll just be like. So that's how that happened. So years go by. I'm on this independent film called Miss December. It's about a guy who's killing girls every month, taking photos of their murdered corpse, and he makes it into a calendar, his sick, twisted calendar, right? He hasn't been caught yet. He taunts the police by writing these personal ads saying he's describing who he's going to kill next. So this girl reads it, and she's like, oh my God, I think he's talking about me. And she's kind of this goth chick who's like into stuff like that. And she's kind of weirdly turned on. She's like, who is it? She works at the diner, and she's like, is it my boyfriend? Is it one of the customers? Long story short, I'm on the set of this film in our chairs waiting for a setup to go by. And I've talked to this this producer, and you know, when he asked me to be a part of it, I saw one of his other films, his earlier films. I thought it was funny. So we're talking. He's like, by the way, we've met before. I'm like, really? You know, I'm thinking film festivals, whatever. He goes, yeah, I went to one of the Vulgarthons. That's what Kevin called those film festivals, Vulgarthons. And I had you sign something for me. I'm like, that's cool. A hat or something. I was like, no, do you remember the guy who brought you the 2-foot black dildo? I was like, that was you? He was like, yeah. And now you're producing a movie. Man, I'm in the wrong profession. And I said, so whatever happened to that black dildo? He goes, I don't know. I lost it. And I was like, in who did you lose this thing? So is there literally somewhere randomly in the world some big 2-foot black dildo with my name on it? By the way, hashtag 2-foot black dildo, just so you know.
Oh, she's already hashtagging it. She's already tweeting.
Yeah, we started hashtagging it after that.
Did you ever maybe think, like now that I'm hearing this story again, that maybe he sold this 2-foot black dildo with your name on it
to fund the film?
Yes.
Very interesting. I like how the plot thickens here.
Yeah.
It gets deeper and deeper. I'm glad some of you caught that one. Thank you.
What a twist.
But it was funny because after that story, some people were like, yo, there's a big 2-foot black dildo with your name on it. Someone tweeted that. I'm like, please, out of context, this is not the way you want to say that. Any fans who are following people tweeting me is not going to be like, what? I knew he was that way. You know, it's going to be, and explaining it to my mother. What's this thing I'm reading? My friends at work are talking about Twitter. By the way, she's Irish, so completely, like, accented everything. I'm like, what, Ma? It's a big 2-foot black dildo. Come on.
Do you think that they'll ever...
Did you take mine? No! Sorry, had to finish the joke.
No. Do you think that there'll ever be a time now that this story is kind of getting out there that now the only thing people are going to bring you to sign is 2-foot black dildo?
Why are you poking that bear?
Because...
Don't do this to me. Come on now. I mean, yes, it's a change of pace, but first of all, you're making them go out to an adult store or order it online. Obviously, that's what we all do now. And then they have to explain to their significant other, like, oh, is this for us? No, I'm actually getting some dude to sign this. What? You know, his movies, the Donkey Show. What are you talking about, Donkey Show?
I mean, they can get other colors, too. It doesn't just have to be black. We can switch it up, you know?
Oh, no, I'm a free man of the state. You get Chinese dildos. I don't care.
Interchangeable dildos. Okay, bye. they're like...
We said it. I tried to explain it.
No, they made it through the entire story, and then after the story...
Maybe he's going out to buy one. He's like, I'll have it out here before this thing is over in an hour.
He's saying yes.
That would be something. I'm like, here you go. What? I had it overnight. I had, like, express delivery. He's part of that Amazon drone program where it drops, boom, dildo. Thank you, Jesus.
Is that a real thing, Amazon drones?
Speaking of Jesus and Amazon,
Okay.
Bezos just passed Gates as the richest man in the world.
Who did?
I went back down. The sales of 2-foot black dildos are going to bring him right over the top again. I'll tell you right now. You can thank me. All right, let's get off the dildos. Okay. That's what she said. Ha ha! I'm here for at least 45 minutes. Don't forget, there's a bar right outside the door here. Oh, it's a great shirt, actually. You know the Guinness logo? But it's the Alec Guinness. It's the Obi-Wan Kenobi, 1914. But I loved Alec Guinness not only just for, obviously, Obi-Wan, but he was a phenomenal actor in general. If you ever see Bridge over the River Kwai, it's his greatest masterpiece. So when I saw this, and he knew that I was a Guinness in general drink and actor lover, he was like, this vendor is like, this is for you. I'm like, oh my God, I'm totally wearing this at the next con. So you can Google it. I forget the name of the company. I'm stupid like that, but it's a great shirt. Thank you for noticing.
I believe that he's the only person from Star Wars to be nominated for an Academy Award.
As opposed to that toy boy, George Lucas. I'm just kidding, that's from Clerks 2. And Peter Jackson argument of which trilogy is a better trilogy.
Oh, I remember. So what is your answer?
It's just a movie about walking. Sorry.
Why are you apologizing? You don't have to apologize to me. What would your answer be? Well, obviously Star Wars.
You know what? I like both, to be honest with you. Now look, I remember when Star Wars changed my mindset of the world in general. I remember in 1977, we lived in the Bronx in New York City. We went out to Paramus, New Jersey, to see Star Wars in 70 millimeter. Like, my brothers were like, we're going to see it on a big screen. We're not going into, my parents didn't want to go into Manhattan because that would be a pain in the ass, but just going over the George Washington Bridge was a lot easier for them. So I remember coming home after seeing Star Wars, like, my mind was blown. It was just like, what is this world? You know? And so I remember coming home, my two older brothers, one 6 years older, one 9 years older than me, and I'm like, when I'm ready to drive, I'm gonna have a land speeder. I'm 40 fucking 7 years old with a goddamn land speeder. We're just talking 3 feet off the goddamn ground. I mean, come on. Maglev, something. Nothing. Just electric cars now.
Maybe at 48. Maybe we're like 1 year away.
No, I don't think we're even getting there. I mean, Musk wants to do that maglev underground. You drop your car in a tunnel, it shoots you like 500 miles an hour.
I'm sorry, what?
No, am I talking out of my ass? There you go. What are those guys?
The Boring Company?
The Boring Company? Like boring a hole? Look at you fisting that thing there. You're like this.
Okay. Go ahead.
Musk was stuck in traffic in L.A.
As we all do. He's not the only one.
Yeah, and he was getting annoyed with it, and he all of a sudden came up with this idea. He goes, you know what would be great is if we get in tunnels and go underneath L.A. and pop up on the other side.
Yeah, because there's nowhere I want to be more than under the ground in California on fault lines.
Well, yeah, that's a little problem.
That's why their subway line is such a failure, because everybody feels the same way. Like, yeah, okay. That's like saying, let's go and build the highest building in a hurricane zone out of paper mache.
Well, he decided he was going to do this. He called up his team and said, look, I want you to, I'm going to do this thing with tunneling, and I want you to name it the Boring Company. And they're like, yeah, that's a nice line. And they literally hung up on
You're drunk, Alan. Go back to bed.
Yep.
Right.
He called them back and said, no, I'm serious. Trademark Boring, B-O-R-I-N-G. And he's already got a verbal okay for it in L.A. and on the East Coast side.
From the king of L.A.? What do you mean he's got a verbal okay from L.A.?
He did
the mole people? You can use our tunnels, Alan.
Well, yeah.
About time someone came down to visit us. Let me introduce you to Hitler. No.
And to go for your magnetic thing, on the East Coast, he's already done a proposal for a hyperloop between Washington, D.C. and New York City. You'll be able to do that travel in 29 minutes.
Yeah, so we can get down to their bullshit even faster. Who wants to go to Washington that fast now? They don't do nothing anymore. They don't. It takes one guy with cancer in his jaw to save the world. Like, well, that's so weird. Like, down to McCain to vote to save the medical insurance. Moving off. Next.
What were you saying?
Donald Trump can go golfing more often, see? And I said Donald Trump for the game show, and you didn't pick it, you stupid.
What game
woman.
show? A game show here?
Yeah, I was part of the match game show at 5 o'clock today.
How'd you do?
I did great. The contestants sucked. They were like, the question is, Hollywood is doing all these reboots. It actually is happening. We're going to do a reboot of Jaws. But instead of a shark, they're planning to cast the biggest mouth in Hollywood as who? So I wrote Donald Trump. Put it in my slot. And the answer was Kim Kardashian. What was it? She doesn't want to say it. Ben Affleck. Oh, Ben Affleck, right. Which I was like, what did you got against Ben Affleck for? Phantoms were the bomb, yo! No, I'm just kidding. So when I was like, as someone who's worked with Ben, I thought Donald Trump. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Needless to say, it didn't matter because both random tickets were husband and wife. So they were competing against each other. It didn't matter. They were both taking home the same prize. So it was like a fix, right?
Down in front. What's up?
I have not. You're not the first one of someone to recommend that to me, too. As an actor, I should. Yeah. Thank you. He was asking, have I listened to Alec Guinness's autobiography on audiobook, and I haven't, but I recommend it as well. Who's next?
There's a gentleman that's raising his hand back there, if I can see.
I do stand-up comedy. Thank you for asking. I play as a lot of times on the East Coast casino route, so Atlantic City, Connecticut, Foxwoods, things like that. I played Mohegan Sun as well. I do stand-up comedy. It kind of spun out of me doing so many Q&As that I would go on about it, and sometimes I'd gear it, especially if it's like, cons. I gear my comedy based on cons. I get questions like, so what'd you think at the time? Like, what'd you think of The Force Awakens? And to be honest with you, I thought it was The Force Asleep. I thought Rogue One was awesome. Like, Rogue One was an amazing save of that franchise, but I thought Force Awakens was derivative of every other Star Wars movie. Like, really? The plot, again, is they make some sort of evil mega weapon that we eventually have to destroy yet a fucking again. Like, literally, after 2 Death Stars are destroyed by simple means, I want to be in that Appropriations Committee meeting where you're like, Emperor, Lord Vader, I think we have the fix now. Problem is, we're making the whole Death Star. Why don't we start off with something that's impenetrable, like an already established planet, right? And instead, what we do is we jack on 3 giant friggin' engines on it, and what we do is we have this beam collector that collects all the solar rays from the system that we want to destroy and use the power of that sun to then destroy each planet of the system. And I can imagine at some point they have to have scientists involved in this. I can see some scientists raising hands.
Sir, I just want to explain something here. You realize if all we have to do is destroy the sun itself, and then those planets will have nothing to orbit, thus spinning out of control, thus the flinging off their inhabitants, and thus killing every inhabitant of that solar system. Shut up, science!
I am trying to create jobs.
Fucking idiot.
Don't listen to him.
Remember what Emperor Trump said when we first started this whole thing? Creating jobs. Make the empire great again.
I'm sorry, my lord. He's been drinking. We don't need scientists anymore, as it's been proven. So I say we do that. So that's what I mean. It was just like, really, once again, we're doing this. We got to destroy, like, was just thrown out the window for some things. And yes, every answer is the Force. The Force. The Force is everything. But look, am I glad to see that, Luke's daughter is finally given back his lightsaber and she's... Oh, did I say that? Oh, shit. Not like I know these people, and I don't. That's my assumption. It's, like, obvious. So that's what it was. Like, so I got into stand-up comedy that way with nerd humor, and then I went on to more vulgar type of humor after that. But thank you for noticing that my delivery is very drink in hand with a microphone and nobody in the audience. Stand-up comedy. That's how it is. Yeah.
Well,
It's exclusives.
To go off that, and you just mentioned her being Luke's daughter, was it? So the title of the next film is The Last Jedi.
Correct.
Can there be more than one The Last Jedi? Like plural?
I'm sure if they'll reboot that 7 times, why not?
Well, I was just curious what your thoughts were. Like, who is the last?
Who is The Last Jedi?
Yes.
Well, to me, I feel like it's Rey. But does she get pregnant by the Force by some weird way? I don't know. Who knows?
Oh.
Yeah.
What a twist.
Right. By what's his name? What was the stormtrooper? What? Thane, yeah.
Huh.
Wow, bow, bow, chicka, chicka, boom, boom. No, that ain't my lightsaber, honey. Oh my God, it looks like a 2-foot black dildo. What? We're back to that again. Thank you for knowing what a callback is. Thank you, sir.
Go for it.
Teaching comedy and bombing at the same time. Yes, who's up? That tickled you a little bit. Well, sir, the bathrooms are out that door to your left. This is vulgar. Microphone. You're right next to it now. Now there's no effort
It's
being
too
put into this.
comfortable.
Come on. Too comfortable now.
Okay.
There we go.
So I did have this one's a little different. What would you say is your favorite type of output for entertainment? Like you do podcasts and stuff.
Output for entertainment? What are you talking about, output? You mean my input?
Well, is it input or output?
Intake?
Intake?
What's my favorite way of doing intake for entertainment?
I'm confused at my own question.
We all are, sir. We all are. But there's an app for that.
I think they call that a paradox.
I a majority of my media intake, I would say, is through television, and I don't mean like just watching network television or cable, but like or watching it on the actual thing of a television. I don't like. I get a lot of immediate information from Twitter. I check with real media, and there is real media because there is fake media out there, but it's not what certain people in power call fake media. But like, you know, I don't have Russian friends who are telling me like, you know, this is something about this Hillary thing that you must check out, my friend. It is crazy. Thank you, Ivan. We were good. I'm good. But I also take in movies. Not going to the theater, I'm very lazy in that sense because I'm on the road like this. Like the last movie I saw was literally in Raleigh. Me and Dana Snyder were flying out on that Monday after the con, but our flights were like 7 o'clock at night. I'm like, what do you want to do? I'm like, I don't know, you want to go to the movies? So he's like, let's go to see Spider-Man in IMAX, which we did. And it was awesome. If anybody hasn't seen the new Spider-Man, it's awesome. If you're in high school especially, it's perfect because Peter Parker's a high school student. Spoiler alert. And I thought it was genius for that level of kids. And thank God they didn't have to go through the whole origin story because we haven't seen that 14 billion times.
Aunt May seems to get younger.
Yeah, she's hot. Look.
Yeah,
Look, the kids have Spider-Man. The adults have, yo, Mom, what's up? Aunt May.
Hey, yo, Aunt May, how you doing?
You know what I could go for? Aunt's apple pie right now. May I please you? Yeah. I could just imagine the very, very rated R version of Spider-Man. It'd be crazy. Yeah, it's Dr. Octopus, baby. What's up?
Spider-Ham, she's porking him.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you for your question.
Yeah.
Now we're getting off the rails real quick there. Yes, in the back. What the fuck are you smoking, bro? Blue shoes. What's your horror preference?
I see what he's doing there.
Is there like a horror movie called Blue Shoes? I know there's a song, Blue Suede Shoes.
No, I just think he's being witty. Are you being witty?
Well, yeah, I'm trying to catch up to that wit. What's the correlation?
I don't know.
Blue Shoes, favorite horror movie. Fuck, I don't get that correlation at all.
Can you explain?
Oh, I get it now. I like a lot of the classic type of horror movies, and it's not technically like blood and guts, slasher type movies. I'm not a big fan of that at all. But I do like classic horror movies like Exorcist, Shining, anything that's Stephen King is always, it's deep in levels. Like Carrie was, bloody, but not in that same way because it was like mind bloody. I'm not a big fan of like the Hostels and the Saws and all that type of stuff. I see people cosplay those characters all. Like I'm a big fan of the Freddy Kruegers, especially the original ones. The Halloweens are really good because those weren't technically really bloody either. I'm like, it's the suspense of like, oh shit, he's here. And it's like, you know, that music. And to be honest with you, music makes horror movies. I'm sorry, if you're gonna make a horror movie, don't cheap out on music because there's something you learn. It does set mood and stuff like that. You may buy 50, 100 gallons of really great blood, but to be honest with you, that's not going to get me all scared as much as the anticipation of someone about to kill me. We talked about your wife not having the right answer, and she gave us Ben Affleck, just to give you a heads up. Yeah, we revisited that whole thing while you were gone. I know, right? Well, you still both won the prizes, so who cares? Yes.
All right, I have a question. What happened to the Clerks cartoon? It was good, and then it just kind of died off.
Well, what happened was it was owned by Disney. Disney owns the rights to Miramax. Miramax owned the rights to Clerks. So what happened was UPN, back in the day, network, wanted to buy an entire season. The only cartoon that they had at the time was Dilbert. And so, true story. And so they were like, we want to do this show. So they had to ask Disney, thus Miramax, for the rights to rent the property to then make a show for it. The heads up at Disney, Eisner and those guys were like, why is UPN want one of our properties to do? And then they found out and contacted Dave Mandel, who was the producer of the cartoon, and Kevin Smith, saying like, hey, I want to take a meeting with you about this project you want to do, this Clerks cartoon. And he said, look, Joe don't go with UPN. They won't even be around for next year. They have no ratings. They'll be dead. Stay with us. We'll give you a Super Bowl ad. We'll promote it. You'll be on a real network. And at the time, they were like, yeah, all right, cool, Super Bowl ad, let's do it. But we're only going to commission 6 episodes, and then we'll go from there. Meanwhile, UPN was ready to start with 13 episodes, with a commitment for 26 if by the 4th episode or something like that, it went so well that they would take a full season. And so that's what they did. They kind of bought the product so that we would get F'd in the A because they didn't want to give it to anyone else. And they knew they weren't going to keep us long because at the time that we did all the voiceover dialogue, because you record the dialogue first, and then the master cartoonists at Disney Burbank do the master outlines and everything else, and then they send all the slave movement stuff all the way over to Korea, and then they work on it. This was before really computer animation was in full swing. It was back in 99, 2000. And so by the time we were done drawing and recording, this tiny little show called Who Wants to Be a Millionaire came on ABC, and it was once a week, and then it became a huge hit. And once that John Carpenter, not the horror John Carpenter, but this other John Carpenter won the $1 million, it blew out the doors, and then it was on like 7 days a week. So they started cutting things from their lineup to fill in with this game show. It's going to be the best thing for ABC, because ABC had nothing. There was no Shonda Rhimes back then to save their asses. There was nothing on that air. So that's what happened. We got F'd, and then it's so expensive to make our episodes because we had such A-list celebrities do guest appearance voices for us. So no one could afford to, I think it was $250,000 an episode, which was gigantic for a cartoon. I mean, I think back in that day, South Park was like 50 grand, 60 grand an episode, if that. And they were getting gigantic ratings. So they never took it. It's been buried. And I always hoped that someone would come in, like an angel investor, and buy the rights from Disney and constitute it again, because eventually we will become too hideous to fucking look at in real life. But we'll still have our voices, and I could be like, Randall, what are you doing? Things like that. Plus we could do all sorts of things. And the other stories that would have come out of the other episodes that Kevin and Dave Mandel and the writing team had put together for future episodes were hilarious, really, really hilarious. And it's a sore wound, because I remember when we first got hired to do it, I was thinking, I'm going to make Simpson money. I'll be rich forever. And then I'll do cons where I just talk about voiceovers. It doesn't matter what I look like. Not like these guys from Overwatch were ugly. They were handsome as fuck. I believe that. So that's what happened to that.
Oh, that's a shame.
That's all right. Thanks for kicking me in the balls. Because that's what it felt like. How you doing, sir?
Am I right? Okay.
Yeah, you're good.
So my question is, how has it been to kind of watch Clerks' influence throughout your lifetime?
Influence on what, though? Like
I said,
my bank account, my drinking habits, my addiction to porn?
I mean, all those 3 would be excellent discussion topics.
Well, that's all research for any Kevin Smith movie, just so you know. Like, I didn't know what snowballing was when I first read that script.
Yeah,
And I literally was just like, that's a thing? And the guy's like, totally. I'm like, really? And this is really before the internet was the internet. So I'm like, he's actually picking up magazines or some shit, finding this stuff out. I'm trying to open up. What is this about? So, yeah, it changed in the sense that decorum for me, I'm a Irish Catholic, award-winning altar boy, raised really, Now, don't get me wrong. I fucking talk bullshit with everybody and whatever. But this now has allowed me to then talk about 2-foot black dildos, snowballing, donkey shows, ass to mouth, porch monkey, every type of subject matter gets opened up, and it's perfectly normal for me and my fans to talk about. Anybody who's outside the realm of knowing the fandom that is Kevin Smith movies go, what the fuck is this guy talking about? I'll give you an example, right? Sometimes on the tour, Marilyn Gigliotti, the girl who plays Veronica from the original Clerks, travels with me, and there's the line from the original movie, hey, trying not to suck any dick on the way through the parking lot, right? When we walk from, let's say, the convention center's over and we're walking over to the hotel or whatever, there's always some juggalo who's like, hey, trying to suck any dick to the parking lot. Now, if you're not a fan and you see some knucklehead screaming at some woman saying that, you're like, oh my God, what did he just say to this woman? That is horrible. I'm going to punch that man in the face. And it's that type of thing that it's afforded me to not have to worry so much about what subject matter will come up. And that's why I warn people with my Q&As. I'm like, look, it's not necessarily me about to tell you stuff. It's the questions I will get that will I will have to respond. Otherwise, it turns into like the White House press office. I'll have to get back to you on that. It's like, no, I'll tell you what it's up. I'll tell you what it is, and here it is. And if your kids are cool with it, and you don't mind the 15 questions you're going to get on the ride home, by all means, let's do it.
Cool. Thanks, man.
No, thank you for the question. Very insightful. How you doing?
Hey, Brian. Thanks for being here.
No, not at all.
All the Kevin Smith movies you've worked on, when was the first time that you were starstruck? That you were like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm about to do a scene with this person?
I didn't do a scene with this person, but meeting Stanley on Mallrats was kind of like, ooh, shit, that's kind of cool. I knew of Michael Rooker. I'd seen him in Cliffhanger and a few other films before that, so he was cool. But a lot of my stuff with him was not really with him. He was in the audience, and the audience stuff in the game show was different. The moment that I was like, holy shit balls, was I was one of the first few days of shooting Dogma. And in the trailer, we're in this makeup trailer, getting our makeup and hair done, and sitting 2 chairs down was the greatest comedian, I believe, in all time, George Carlin. And it was a meeting that I was just like, holy crap. Now, I knew I was going to be working with him because I'm a news reporter asking Cardinal Glick questions, so we had scenes. Now, he grew up in the Bronx in New York City, and I was born and raised in the Bronx till the age of 10 in New York City, in the same neighborhood he was. So I got to talk to him about that, which threw him for a loop because he's like, hey, you're from the Bronx too? I'm from the Bronx. Like, no one asks him about the Bronx. And I had bought his current book at the time, which is a book called Brain Droppings, which is an amazing stories that are hilarious. If you ever want to read a great book of his, even on an ebook, it was that. So I said, do you mind signing this? He was like, absolutely. Oh my God, I'm making an extra $5. You know, that type of thing. And we took Polaroid together because before digital photography, Polaroid in the film world was a way to document when I was in full makeup and costume, he's in full makeup and costume as Cardinal Glick, to document that that's what our costumes and makeup look like. So that next day that we have to get dressed again, continuity-wise, they can say, okay, look, they match up. So I had the makeup and hair person like, do you mind if we take a photo together with the Polaroid? She goes, yeah. And at the time, it was those skinny strip Polaroids. It was like the new thing. It wasn't the big flat ones that you just wave. It was these strip ones. So I have this strip Polaroid with George Carlin as Cardinal Glick, me as Grant Hicks, the newscaster. And in the book, he wrote, from one Bronx boy to another, keep us laughing, George Carlin. And that was cool. And then on the same production, I was having a tough time at one point getting my lines during takes, and I was like, take 4, take 5, and I was just not getting through what I had to say. And Alan Rickman had flown in, was on set. He wasn't shooting for a couple of days, but he was hanging around. And as I was like getting down on myself, fucking son of a bitch, Alan Rickman came over. He's like, don't worry, it happens to the best of us. And I was like, holy shit, Hans Gruber just said it happens to the best of us. And he's so short. He was a lot taller, so shorter than I thought he was going to be. And so those were 2 of the greatest kind of holy shit moments. There was then Jay and Silent Bob after party. It was an outdoor after party on this outdoor parking lot not far from the Westwood Fox Theater where we had the premiere. And we had an after party with like food trucks and stuff. And Mark Hamill, Cockknocker, is there. And so I'm at this party with a group of people talking and stuff. And from the distance I hear, Brian! I turn. Mark Hamill's like, I'm like, Brian! And I did your typical, yeah, Brian, come here. I'm like, holy shit, Luke Skywalker's doing Jedi mind tricks on me. His son was a big fan of the original series and of Clerks and stuff like that, so we took photos and stuff. So it's moments like that. Salma Hayek, meeting her in person. She is... Cameras, film, movies do not do her justice of her beauty. Her beauty is so stunning in person. My girlfriend's like, I would totally do her. And I'm like, you are totally allowed to. I will hold the camera. She was stunningly beautiful. So there are those moments that I'll always treasure that, and to go back on your other question, what does it afford me? It's those moments that I will always treasure and find amazing that this very first Dick and Fart joke movie has afforded me the chance to hobnob and mingle with people who've been incredible in this industry.
All right, thanks.
You're welcome.
So I think we have time for this last final question.
Sure.
All right. So my last question was, what was the original intended meaning for the ending scene in Clerks 2?
Well, Kevin explained it to me this. What he asks is, what was the intended meaning to the original Clerks ending? If anybody hasn't seen the deleted scenes of the Clerks movie, Randall has thrown the sheet, the I assure you we're open sheet, off into the stores like, you're closed. And then the music starts and credits roll. It actually continued where I go back behind the counter, I'm doing paperwork at the end of the night, and then you see a point of view camera from outside the store. You see him walking closer to the store, it's dark out. He opens the door, the camera's on the floor, and then pops up looking at the counter at me, and I go, I'm sorry, sir, we're closed. And then you see a guy pull up a pistol, shoot me, Dante falls back, dead, and starts bleeding from the chest, and he comes around, opens up the register, starts stealing, and puts stuff in a bag, and then leaves. And then a minute later, another character who might be Kevin Smith clean-shaven comes in, goes, hello, hello, decides to reach back, steal from the top rack of cigarettes, and then take off. And so when I said, man, I hate this. Why do you have to kill the guy off? He goes, well, that's how ironic is it? This is the guy who comes in and not even supposed to be here today and gets killed, and that's the reality. I mean, because Kevin really worked that job. He worked at that store, really was a clerk, and that was his gig, being a convenience store clerk. And when you work that late shift, it could happen where some knucklehead comes in, is like, give me everything in the register, and then just decides to pop two in your skull, and, that was it. So he wanted to make a serious meeting. First screening of that at the in October of '93 at the IFFM Film Festival. Sunday, the last day of the festival, 11 a.m., that was our only screening. All of us on the cast go for the most part. There was like 12 of us who went from the cast. We get to this theater, it's maybe like 20 of us, and it's like, fuck, what the hell? And that original ending happens. Kevin thinks he's crushed. By the way, this whole story about how Clerks is made has been put into a biopic called Shooting Clerks, which is screening here tomorrow night at 9 o'clock over in room 210 and 209 as part of the film festival screenings. And the American director, because it actually was written and directed by a Scottish guy, but the American director will be here to do a Q&A, and I'll do an introduction to the film, and then I have a burlesque show to host tomorrow night at 11:30. Yep, and that'll be in Florida Room D tomorrow. But at 9 o'clock will be this screening called Shooting Clerks that'll show you what Kevin went through. Like, he went through a lot of pain getting that film up and running, and I didn't know a lot of these stories. Like, I knew 85% of the story, but there were some things even watching this film, like, I didn't know Kevin, that happened to Kevin, and it's true. So if you have some time at 9 o'clock tomorrow especially, come to Shooting Clerks. You'll meet the American director. I'll introduce the film. You'll see a really great piece of filmmaking, and a lot of the original cast members come into the film playing other parts. I'm in the film as well, playing someone else from Kevin's life, and it's really great. So Shooting Clerks, 9 o'clock tomorrow, room 910, or 210, excuse me. And so do that. But yeah, that's. I never liked the ending, but I'm glad he cut it, because after that film festival, he was introduced to a film producer's rep, who told him, you got to cut this out, man. You're going to just piss off your audience if you kill off the main guy. Just keep it a straight comedy, and that'll make everybody happy, and that's why we cut it out, and we went on to do other things with those characters.
I was actually thinking for Clerks 2.
Did you say Clerks 2?
I did.
You did?
But that was really,
Yeah.
I mean, that was really,
So anyway,
yeah. Still good.
we left off where Rosario Dawson character's Becky is pregnant with my hideous fucking love child, and we bought the store again. So what happens in Clerks 3 that was written 2 years ago is this. If someone has $4 million to pay me, I will totally tell you the whole story, because here's the thing. I signed a do not disclosure order that my penalty is $3 million. So we pay the penalty, I keep another $1 million for me because I'll never work in this town again, or in industry in general, and then you can know the whole thing. So if anybody has an angel investor who wants to hear the whole story, you can totally invest in it for $3 million. We'll pay the penalty. It'll be the first time ever that someone's like, someone actually paid the penalty? Yes, he did. And he got the whole story out. But no, Kevin is planning to release that eventually as, I think, a graphic novel. Or a puppet show. I don't know the fuck what's going on these days.
I want to see the puppet show. That's
It's just that, Jeff Anderson doesn't want to do it, so. And it's not, like I said, it's not like Spider-Man where you could just put the mask on anyone.
I mean, if we could get Jeff Anderson for $3 million, technically it's a better deal.
I like your thinking, sir. Because the counteroffer never got that high. Just so you know, if that was a counteroffer, I think you would get not only Jeff in, but you'd get Jay Muse to blow you. while Kevin
Okay,
records it
Jose.
for his podcast.
All right.
Are we the last show in this room?
I have to run to the wrestling.
You do.
I do.
All right. Everybody give a round of applause for our host tonight.
Hi. Are
Is
you gonna-
wrestling in here at 8
No.
o'clock? What's in here at 8 o'clock? Oh, okay. So I do have to get off the stage. I'm not like Dana that can take over a room for hours on end. Dana's smart? Oh, come on now. Come on now. You're giving a lot on that one.
Dana's.
He's adorable and funny. No, just kidding. I'm kidding. And lucky. Guys, thank you so much for coming. I'm here again tomorrow at the con. I have no panels tomorrow, but I do have, like I said, the screening at 9 o'clock in room 210 of Shooting Clerks. And then 11:30, I'm hosting the professional burlesque show. That's in Florida, room D. Yes. And if